We had never heard of an archive closed on Thanksgiving before. Spot the reference. Anyway, welcome to a special Thanksgiving edition of Ben's Junk. And indeed so special that I don't even have a cute little joke to start this one off with. But yeah, this video might wind up being a fail-safe for me. The current plan is to release the next proper archive episode on Thanksgiving and have this video be the week before. But as a fail-safe, this may drop on Thanksgiving. But I think this is going to be the only Thanksgiving-centric Ben's Junk I'll ever do. I just can't think of what else I would do it on. But I'm going to discuss my one and only real Thanksgiving tradition, and then some other kind of more intermittent ones. But yeah, let's start off with the one and only true hardcore Thanksgiving tradition that I have. And that would be listening to, at the very least, side one of Arlo Guthrie's debut album, Alice's Restaurant, from 1967. And the actual track is called Alice's Restaurant Massacre. And as I mentioned, it is the entire first side of the album, or at least what I implied there. And that was a rock radio staple for a long time. I mean, I remember, maybe I'm just getting crazier in my old age, but I remember being like 12 years old and hearing this just kind of randomly on the radio throughout the year, not necessarily on Thanksgiving, but when I did hear it on Thanksgiving, then it truly clicked for me. And I just, it became my thing. I would deliberately tune into the classic rock station at noon on Thanksgiving, which is still how a fair chunk of them do it. It's not quite the tradition it once was. But yeah, and then not too long after, I picked up a copy of it, but not this copy. So this LP here is one I picked up in college out of a thrift store bin, or maybe slightly after college. And if you look at the cover, the condition of the cover, that's about representative of the sound of this record at this point. I'm not really sure why, but I did give this a Mobile Fidelity inner sleeve, but it's not in great shape, and I've put that much more wear on it. But if the light hits it just right, you can probably see some scratches in there, some scuffs. It's not in brilliant condition, but yeah. Now, as for side two of the album, it's more just kind of conventional, regular folk rock tunes of the period, and perfectly decent ones. I really have nothing against side two. And if I have the time and or just will to do so, I will play the entire album on Thanksgiving. But at the very least, that one and only true hardcore tradition of mine is listening to Alice's Restaurant Massacre at some point during the day on Thanksgiving. So as I mentioned, this is not my original copy. This is my original copy. I picked this up at a Kmart circa, I don't know, 1999 or 2000. And that would presumably make this the final cassette issue of this album. The case is kind of falling apart here. But yeah, if I happen to be at Archive HQ, which unfortunately I'm generally not on Thanksgiving, well, I guess not unfortunately, but if I am, I will throw on the LP more than likely, or if I'm in more of a tape nerd mode, I'll do the cassette. But at some point, I don't remember exactly when, I did find in a used CD bin at a used record store the CD issue of this, which I never took the used sticker off of. But this is what I ripped onto my iPod, and yes, I still use an iPod. When you're as big a jerk about sound as I am, then yeah, I still use one. But more than likely, if on a given year, I'm going to be listening on my iPod ripped from this CD. And before you ask, the movie adaptation, I just could never get into. I've tried, I have an off-air recording of it from when it aired on TCM at one point when I was in high school, and I just it doesn't have the magic that his 18-minute kind of rambling comedy monologue has. And indeed, if you're, I've been kind of avoiding it here. If you're not familiar, the basic gist of it is then 18-year-old Guthrie, this would have taken place in 1965, went to Alice's restaurant, as it were, for Thanksgiving dinner, and him and his friends, and they thought they would be helpful to Alice to help clean up afterwards. But Alice had so much trash lying around, they figured it would be a nice thing to take all her trash to the dump. The dump was closed on Thanksgiving. They found a way to get the trash into the landfill kind of through the back door, so to speak. And Arlo and his friends all got busted for it. And that little spot on his criminal record for littering basically saved him from the draft and saved him from presumably getting sent to Vietnam. But yeah, that doesn't translate well to a movie. It's more fun to just listen to him, not even sing about it, but just chat about it while playing a basic little thing on the acoustic guitar. But yeah, it kind of loses something in the translation to a 2-hour plus film. It's a very long movie. The next closest I have to a proper Thanksgiving tradition, in the media sense at least, would be watching The Last Waltz, the final concert by the original lineup, at least, of the band. And I bought this DVD right when it came out in 2002. I went through this big phase with the band when I was in high school. I was probably the only kid in high school in the early 2000s that was just listening to music from Big Pink compulsively. But I had heard just kind of through legend about this movie, but it was kind of hard to find circa 2000, 2001. But then this came out on DVD in 2002. And this is indeed the truly original slipcase released from 2002. And this was a tradition of mine for quite a while. Unfortunately, it's kind of fallen off. I did put this in last year, though, for the first time in probably 5-6 years, I'd imagine. But I felt truly compelled to put it in last year after the passing of Robbie Robertson. And yeah, as of my shooting this, we are down to our last member of the band. But I love this concert. I love the group. To me, it kind of earns its status. So yeah, and as far as I know, this has never made it to Blu-ray or 4K yet. I could be wrong about that, but I do kind of await that, although this is a very well done DVD. All right, in the past I have discussed Garfield's Halloween Adventure and A Garfield Christmas, so let's just go ahead and finish the trilogy, shall we? Garfield's Thanksgiving, 1989, and I do have this on DVD at this point, and have for probably pushing 20 years now. The 20th Century Fox set of the Garfield Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas all on one disc. But I've never been able to let go of my old VHS. And I honestly don't remember the last time I watched this. So I don't know. It's time permitting. Maybe I'll try and bring this one back this year just for a one-off. But anyway, I guess there was a period where I used to watch this as a little kid, then I kind of dropped off on it. I think because a lot of this revolves around Grandma, John Arbuckle's grandmother, coming to save the day, and my grandmother died when I was 10, and I think it just kind of ruined this for me for a few years. But yeah. I've still got all my old Garfield tapes. I don't really need them anymore at this point. I've replaced them all with DVDs. But yeah, just can't let them go. Well, if I discussed the Garfield Thanksgiving, I suppose I should discuss Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. And come to think of it, I'm pretty sure I've discussed Great Pumpkin and Charlie Brown Christmas at some point in the past, so might as well finish this one up too. And like the Garfield Thanksgiving, this is my least favorite of the three big holiday specials. Not to say that it's bad, but it feels a bit rote to me by this point. This is the DVD issue from 2008, and it took a little bit of water damage at some point, but it survived just fine, and the cover a little warped, but salvageable if nothing else. And yeah, this one is, I just kind of consider it to be a bit dated. It feels kind of 70s, which to me, Peanuts should never feel tied to any particular place or time. And the Little Birdie tune on here just always kind of annoyed me. But, I'll accept it. I'm pretty sure I actually watched this last year, but yeah, not really a priority. Okay, this next one is not a tradition with me at all, but I don't think I'm going to get away with a would-be Thanksgiving Ben's junk and not at least touch on this one. But yeah, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles for the Philips CDI. And this is original Philips CDI. This is one of the ones that you can only play on a Philips CDI. Some of the later movies that say CDI are just VCDs, video CDs, and you can play those on most DVD players these days. But anyway, I've just never cared for this movie, which is kind of strange because I'm usually okay with Steve Martin and certainly John Candy, but I've always just found the characters to be just so harsh, shrill, loud, annoying. And I've never gotten into this one. But yeah, two guys trying to get to their respective homes for Thanksgiving. I know this movie's got its fans, and I'm sure I'll probably take some flack for it, but this one just leaves me cold. All right, this next movie is considered a Thanksgiving classic in some circles, in that a crucial part of it takes place at Thanksgiving. But I don't consider it a tradition of mine. I think I've only ever watched this on or around Thanksgiving once. But this is also a movie that I have a genuine love-hate relationship with. And I think it's because when I look at this, I feel like I'm having the mirror held up awfully close. I don't know what that says about me. But anyway, the documentary American Movie, released in 1999, Mark Borchardt, and unfortunately we lost his buddy Mike Shank a couple of years ago now. But this is basically a documentary about a guy who wants to be a filmmaker and is trying to, at the very least, raise money to make a short horror film and hopefully release it on home video and sell a few copies, maybe get it on the festival circuit, and then put the proceeds from that towards more ambitious projects. And at the time, Borchardt would have been going through that phase in life where it's like, okay, I haven't really accomplished much of anything. I need to get my butt into gear. So as for me personally, it is a bit like having the mirror held up, because when I see this, I see myself when I was maybe trying to make albums when I was in my early and mid-20s and trying to get other musicians together, get a studio together, and not necessarily knowing what I was doing and just kind of hitting every conceivable pothole along the way, not having anyone to really guide you along. And so that's how I always feel with this. So yeah, it's a very complicated relationship I have with this, and I'm pretty sure Borchardt has a pretty complicated relationship with this thing as well. Now, the short film that he was trying to get made did get made, and it is included as a bonus feature on only the old DVD copies of this. This has since been reissued on 4K, but it is missing the short film. And the short film in question has become kind of an underground VHS classic, Coven. And yes, it is indeed signed by Mark Borchardt. And I have kind of a love-hate relationship with this short, in that objectively it is kind of terrible. The dubbing is atrocious. The plot is barely existent. But at the same time, you can see a lot of ambition in it. You can see a lot of hard work in it. It's a very dark, very gritty film. It has a nice style to it, but I think had he had more in resources, he probably could have had a less outsider-ish final result. And that's just how I feel about a lot of my stuff. So yes, this is actually the kind of movie I would love to somehow run on Archive, like have some sort of public watch party or something, but I don't know how I would ever get away with that. Just for the experience of it, I guess the shared experience of it. But then again, who else is going to share in that except for maybe other people who have done kind of weird projects and knowing full well that it could fail miserably too, financially, creatively, and so on. A lot of people like to use Thanksgiving as an excuse to start busting out the Christmas movies. So I suppose an appropriate one would be, say, Miracle on 34th Street, which starts at Thanksgiving, if memory serves. Or maybe a Grumpy Old Men, even though that's not a holiday movie at all. But it starts a bit before Thanksgiving and runs through the holidays. But for whatever strange reason, in more recent years, sometime over Thanksgiving weekend at the very least, I will run the Riff Tracks version of Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny. A pretty infamous, at this point, movie from the early 70s, which really only ran at a few drive-ins and cheapy, like, mall cinemas and stuff like that. But if you're not familiar, Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny is really just a wraparound, and a really, really cheap one. It's cheap all around. The whole budget for the movie, the joke would be that it was $1.98, but I don't think more truly, genuinely went into the making of this than maybe a few $1,000s, and I'm sure most of that was just lab costs for the film. But anyway, in this case, it's Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny is just a wraparound. The bulk of it is a whole other movie spliced in. So in the case of this DVD, it's a really bad adaptation of Thumbelina. And since then, the Riff Tracks gang has found an alternate cut of it, and they did a live version of this where the big, long middle stretch of it is a really awful adaptation of Jack and the Beanstalk. Now, I admittedly, I kind of need the Riff Tracks for it, especially for that long middle stretch. I could see where you could watch the wraparound of Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny pure, just so your jaw can hit the floor. But yeah, I've known people who are very hardcore about this movie and will not accept it with commentary. But admittedly, I do kind of need it, if only to get me through Thumbelina or Jack and the Beanstalk in the more recent version, which, as far as I know, has not had a hard copy issue. And otherwise, if you're not into Riff Tracks, this is a good source for decent prints of movies. I mean, on these studio DVDs, so not the live ones, as far as I know, all of them, you can turn off the commentary and have a decent print of whatever movie. So even if you're not into movie riffing, there's still a place, I think, for the serious collector. How serious can you be and do Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny? But yeah, that's me easing my way into Christmas, because it's loosely Christmas. I mean, Ice Cream Bunny, that's a cross between Easter and summer? Who knows? Anyway, I'm rambling here, so I suppose I better close things down for the day here. Hope you enjoyed my little ramble, and I'll talk to you again soon.